Stevens,
Yes.
Tim, Witzel, 6 yes, 2 absent.
Motion passes. Thank you, Jen, and thank you, Andrea. Okay, 6.7. Rachel, please provide a report from the Strategic Planning, Performance, and Improvement Committee meeting.
Thank you. We have no action items and about an hour's worth of conversation, or less, regarding the Strategic Planning, Performance, and Improvement Committee. The primary thing I just wanted to mention is that we're requesting for next month to have some time for full board discussion and work, probably truly about an hour at that point in time, to delve into where we left off in March around what we've talked about is Rule 10. And in that, if you recall in March, we spent some time really delving into, as we also called buckets, 3 buckets of approval, accreditation, and accountability. And we spent some time looking at Rule 14, which is approval rule for non-publics, and Rule 10, which is approval and accreditation and accountability rule for public schools, but also the accreditation rule for non-public schools. And as you know, we've really not come back in depth to the discussion, but staff has really spent some time from that time working through a new timeline and looking through some of the elements of those 3 buckets that we need to look at. So some of the things that we need to talk about is making some decisions as we move forward on a revised timeline, making some decisions next month then around in those 3 areas, do we want those 3 areas to be merged into one type of rule, or do we want to really look at 3 rules, a rule around approval, a rule around accreditation, and a rule around accountability. And those are some very important board level decisions that we need to, policy decisions that we need to be thinking about. Yesterday in the policy committee, during the discussion around State Board Position Statement S12, which is the position statement on assessment of student learning, we had some discussion about that policy should probably follow in our discussion around approval, accreditation, and accountability. We also talked just a little bit about the position statement S2, which we can revisit, that is around AQuest, that gets to a little bit of our beginning definition of approval and accreditation and accountability. And so we'll be talking about this jointly from a policy perspective next month, and then from our regulatory process of where do we move forward. And we will probably be sending out some reading for you ahead of time, just refresher information from some of the recommendations that we started to put together in March, and some of the draft timeline pieces that are put together, and some of the policy areas that interweave in this discussion. So that will come together. I do believe also that the commissioner may want to speak for a moment or two again to interweaving Nebraska Ready into this concept, and possibly having, similar to what Patsy has led around the equity, to maybe have a subset group that Maureen has already agreed to be a part of from our committee, myself and Maureen working with some of the team at NDE, to really look at the work that's being done with Nebraska Ready to determine how that might interweave at this point in time with some of the policy discussion that we're having around accreditation, approval, and accountability. So that ends my report, unless, Commissioner, you want to add anything.
The only thing, I know that you're hungry for more is what I was going to say. But no, I just want to, I think I'll reiterate what I started down that path. I think our push on Nebraska Ready is to ensure that we have that kind of next level of where we go with ensuring that our students are truly ready for their futures. And so I like the approach of working with the Strategic Planning Committee and kind of shaping. We started actually, for a little history moment, we started with AQuest before we had a strategic plan even, right? And so sometimes, even as Rachel's talking about that, we put AQuest up kind of on this pedestal. And it's actually the strategic plan that should be a bit more up on that pedestal, and other things kind of flow from that. And so really what I see is this is yet another opportunity to kind of take that and say, hey, look, a big part of our future work should be ensuring that our students are Nebraska ready. And so having that discussion point with either a subcommittee of that committee or that committee, I think makes very good sense. So.
Anyone have any other questions for Rachel or the commissioner? Thank you, Rachel. That was a short hour. Okay, moving on to additional business. Is there a motion on item 7.1 regarding the commissioner entering into an additional agreement with the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services to oversee and administer the DHHS schools and education programs?
Yes, Madam President. I move to authorize the commissioner to enter into an additional agreement with DHHS to oversee and administer the DHHS schools and education programs.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Rachel? Motion made by Robin and seconded by Rachel. Is there any discussion on this? I would just like to interject here. As I was looking over the rationale for this, I have to say, Commissioner, the department under your leadership has really pushed forward on all the right things for these sites. I was especially where you had implemented a plan for remote learning during the COVID-19 pandemic. And the other piece that really stood out to me was you've implemented high-quality professional learning for the teachers, and that's expected to be ongoing through the school year. And what was noted following that was some teachers commented this was the only educational professional development that they had been provided in 15 years at working at YRTC. So kudos, Commissioner, to you and the team that you've been working with, along with DHHS, to get these kinds of things going. And then making sure that the credit recovery and self-paced learning is at all 5 sites, including development of a governance board. That's awesome. So I just wanted to outline those pieces of information if you hadn't read really close. And I see where there's some things further down for this coming year where all of our talk on Rule 10 will fit in to those pieces. So thank you, Commissioner. You're very visionary.
Well, and our thanks to Dr. Fries and Ryan for the folks that we've been working with. But I will add, if you remember when you first approved this contract for us to do this work, it was actually on March 6th, which was the first case of COVID in Nebraska, first confirmed case. And so it has been a lot of work. But again, it's something I'm very passionate about. I know our team's very passionate about of building a system that's going to work for these students. So to Robin's point earlier about and to Patsy's point earlier about adding this work to the equity perspective, I think is spot on. So thank you.
Thank you again to Ryan and the staff, Dr. Friesen and everyone. Deb, did I see that you wanted to say something? Oh, okay. Anyone else have anything to say? Seeing none, Andrea, please call the roll.
Neary? Yes. Kojons?
Yes.
Fricky?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Wise?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Tim? Witzel? 6 yes, 2 absent.
Motion passes. Is there a motion on item 7.2 regarding the commissioner, authorizing the commissioner to contract with individuals and entities to fulfill the terms of the agreement for the DHHS schools and education programs?
Yes. I move to authorize the commissioner to contract with individuals and entities to fulfill the terms of the agreement for the DHHS schools and education programs.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Patsy? Was it Rachel?
We both moved, so it doesn't matter. You can't tell us which
The
one.
twins? I'll put Patsy down.
Perfect.
Okay, motion was made by Deborah and seconded by Patsy. Is there any discussion on this motion? Robin?
Just for clarification again, is that the KLK, Lynette, Tanis, and Scott English? Is that all three of those?
Yeah, it's all of
Ti-
them combined.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, Andrea, please call the roll.
Neary? Yes. Pojons?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Wise?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Tim? Witzel? 6 yes, 2 absent.
Motion passes. Thank you, Andrea. Moving on to agenda item 8, special presentations and discussions. None today. Okay, agenda item 9, information items and reports. Note that your monthly reports are linked in Spark for your review. And the other items, 9.2 through 9.5, are information items and written reports for the board and for our information only. And do we have anything for the good of the cause that anyone wants to add before we adjourn? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you for those who tuned into the broadcast. A work session, if needed, may be held on Thursday, October 1st at a time to be determined. A business meeting will be held on Friday, October 2nd at 9:00 a.m. at a location to be determined. The September State Board meeting is officially adjourned.
What time is it?
12:40.